Well, Tomi Lahren is back in the news again. Yesterday on Fox and Friends, she said that overturning Roe v. Wade would be equivalent to spitting on the Constitution. While Tomi is known for her aggressive remarks and angry attempts to destroy opponents' arguments, this comment is just beyond outrageous. Clearly, Tomi isn't very familiar with the concept of constitutional law, so how about a little history lesson? Let's break this thing down. Roe v. Wade is obviously one of the most debated Supreme Court decisions out there. Interestingly, many outspoken pro-abortion legal scholars believe that Roe has no constitutional backing. John Hart Ely, a supporter of legalized abortion, says that, quote, Roe is bad because it is bad constitutional law, or rather because it is not constitutional law and gives almost no sense of any obligation to try to be, end quote. Or how about former Blackmun clerk Edward Lazarus, who said, quote, in almost 30 years since Roe's announcement, no one has produced a convincing defense of Roe on its own terms, end quote. Or when Lazarus said that, quote, the problem, I believe, is that it has little connection to the constitutional right it purportedly interpreted. A constitutional right to privacy broad enough to include abortion has no meaningful foundation in constitutional text, history, or precedent. At least it does not if those sources are fairly described and reasonably faithfully followed, end quote. Pro-abortion legal scholars agree, Roe has no constitutional backing. Ruling on the basis of right to privacy is faulty. Those words are nowhere to be found in the Constitution. Inferring a right to privacy from the 14th Amendment, which says that no state can deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, has absolutely no connection to the abortion issue. Let's take it a step further. As of now, the only thing keeping Roe on the books is its precedent. As you may be aware, there are a few historical cases that remained law based off of precedent. Anyone recall Plessy versus Ferguson? It also found constitutional backing from the 14th Amendment, saying that black and whites were fully equal under the law, but had to be separated because the Constitution was colorblind. So does this mean that the ruling in Brown versus the Board of Education, which overturned Plessy, was spitting on the Constitution because it did away with the law that was previously upheld by precedent? Or was it spitting on the Constitution because it did away with the law that was found to have no true constitutional backing? If that's the case, then maybe Tomi wants to clarify why she wants the United States to go back to segregating public schools. Oh, and let's not forget about the Dred Scott decision that stated black people could not be considered citizens of the United States and that federal government had no power to regulate slavery. So is adding the 14th Amendment unconstitutional? Was freeing the slaves spitting on the Constitution, Tomi? Plessy and Dred Scott are two examples of horrendous interpretations of the Constitution, and Roe v. Wade belongs in that same category. Tomi Lahren claims that attempting to overturn Roe would be religious political activism, yet fails to see that Roe itself was an act of judicial political activism. It has absolutely no constitutional backing. Depriving any persons to the right of life is unconstitutional. Rather than spitting on the Constitution, overturning Roe would be a glorious return to the principles that made America great in the first place. With Big League Politics signing off, I'm Sonny Joy Nelson.